The Investing in African Mining Indaba, now in its 30th year, welcomed thousands of delegates, industry experts, mining giants, government leaders, and foreign investors to discuss the future of African mining and current trends in Africa's commodities. Transporting and transport infrastructure of Africa's minerals is crucial to Africa's mining success. CNBC Africa's Fifi Peters spoke to the CEO of Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone about their participation at this year's Indaba.
Ronnie, thanks so much for your time. We're starting the interview formally right now, and perhaps with a bit of an introduction about the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone. Give us some brief background on the IDZ.
Oh, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Tamane Zulu, and I work for Richards Bay IDZ as the Chief Executive Officer. As you will know, that the country has established different special economic zones throughout the country, and at KZN we have two dual trade ports as well as Richards Bay IDZ. And our main focus is to attract potential investors into our zone, focusing on different sectors, in particular metal beneficiation, as well as energy and innovation in terms of agriculture, agri-hub projects, and many other projects that different investors have interest on. And we are busy facilitating all those investments on behalf of government.
All right.
As a public entity.
All right. And your agenda then specifically at the Investing in Africa Mining Indaba as the RDIDZ is what?
Oh, absolutely. You'd know that the country has been focusing as one of its strategic areas on beneficiation. But if you look from the time in which the whole concept was being revisited, very little has been achieved. And we felt at RDIDZ that there's a contribution that we can make because we are a mining region. We've got natural minerals that we have within our midst, and also companies that are focusing on different forms of minerals. And we are trying to encourage most of our business partners and investors to focus on beneficiation rather than to send raw materials abroad for processing purposes. Why don't we do it within our own establishment? Why don't we create skills development for that particular area, and why don't we do it within our own shores than to send raw materials and create jobs elsewhere when our countries face challenges in terms of job creation? So it's a special area of focus that with our investors and partners around the region that we are trying to focus on and make a meaningful contribution. It's been a talk for a very long time, but very little has been achieved to date.
Exactly. I was about to say that it is almost as though it's a song of, or the song of beneficiation is a song that everybody knows word for word.
Absolutely.
We've been singing it for so long, but the action on the ground has been very little.
Absolutely.
But I'd also like to understand, as Richards Bay, the work that you are trying to do in terms of increasing the level of value add in your sector. There's a number of special economic zones, of course, that are trying to do the same. And so it's a question around what makes Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone unique. What sets you apart from your competitors?
I think our value proposition is mainly one around the environment within which we operate. I mean, you have the port, which is run by Transnet. We have a special relationship with Transnet. It's one of the busiest ports in our country. Right now, you'll know that there's so much congestion because of the interest that European countries have developed in terms of coal. As we are trying to minimize the usage of coal, other countries are taking advantage of our coal to do the same things that we have been doing for so long. But also we have a deep sea port which attracts various investors to do the kind of stuff that you can't easily do anywhere else in the country except in Richards Bay. And most of them, when they show interest to invest within our zone, it's mainly because of those strategic environments that we have that make their business easy for the purpose of the finished products to be transported on the ground or on the flight or via the different forms of vessels. Because of the advantage of the sea that we have, the nature of it makes it easy to massively be able to transport goods across different countries in the world. And that's the niche market that we have at our disposal. The most important thing that investors would like to know Once they've manufactured various projects, how do they transport them?
Sure.
How do they reach different markets globally to make sure their products they desire some benefit, economic benefit. So that becomes a very important aspect of our business development. That's the advantage of Richards Bay currently has. But also, of course, it's a well-known thing, the tax incentives that all special economic zones, they benefit from. Because once we are established as a zone, it's a national key point. So the security of your investment is guaranteed. You'll know that now and again there are challenges of boycotts and so forth, of people looking for jobs and so forth. But Richards Bay is quite secured enough. We never get affected by those type of things that happen around our environments. That's another advantage we have. So the protection of your investment is guaranteed as a national key point.
As a national key point, and
Yes.
you are coming across really confident about the offering, of course, that the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone does have. And I imagine that it's what you are pitching to investors here at the Mining Indaba. But perhaps you can also talk a little bit about the exposure or the investments that are already within your SEZ from the mining sector.
Yeah, we currently have two big investments that we are working on. One focuses on titanium dioxide. It's a very important product. It's a 13 billion project. As a matter of fact, tomorrow there will be a signing ceremony where the project is getting into its financial close. We have entered into a lease agreement of 50 years to produce titanium dioxide, which is a very important product for different forms of materials that are being used in the mining industry. It's one of the projects that we pride ourselves with. Also, as at the end of March this year, we'll be completing a plant by Velma Processing Company, which is a Singaporean investor, whereby we'll be focusing in producing things like mayonnaise, sunflower oil, and many other products that are linked into that. That's about 6 billion project that we pride ourselves with, which will create permanent jobs for our people locally, and also skills development, which is critical for these industries. We are focusing with other academic institutions to make sure that our people are made ready for the jobs opportunities that they bring into this fall. And there are many other projects, gas to power projects that are in the pipeline, though they are still trying to do some feasibility studies, but two of those projects have already received EIA approvals. In particular, the ESCOM project of 3,000 megawatts, which is a gas to power project. We are about to put a project implementation plan so that we can assist our country with energy. We know the challenges our country is faced with. So we've declared ourselves as an energy hub for the region to assist the province, to assist the country at large. And we think we have a potential of attracting more investors into the energy space. I mean, everyone is now focusing on gas development. We have an infrastructure that make it easy for other potential investors to actually look into the business opportunity in that specific sector. So we've identified energy as one important sector that we are focusing on. And I can assure you in the next 2 or 3 years, Richards Bay will be a different zone altogether.
And so perhaps maybe a little bit more detail on how you ensure a return of investment for investors and potential investors.
Well, one of the things that we are doing, as I've already made reference to, we give them good long-term lease arrangements so that their investments can see the light of the day. It takes longer times for your input to derive maximum benefit. So we give them a longer period, and we are not very strict. At times, some of the rentals we do are not necessarily market related because we want to attract them into our zone. Our main focus is job creation for our people. We've got the land, service land, flat land, and they don't have to do a lot about it. It's already service is already approved. We work very well with the city of Umhlatuze to make sure that the services that are needed by investors, such as water, electricity, are well received, and they derive maximum benefit from that. We are now trying to introduce a retention strategy of these businesses and industries by engaging with the city to look into some incentives that we can further introduce for our investors to benefit from, so that they can stay for a longer period within our zone and create more jobs for our people. So, and obviously we're a gateway to Africa. So our investors, they don't only focus in South Africa as a country for their markets. they look globally. They look into Africa as a whole. We are actually a gateway to Africa and the world at large. And we are strategically and geographically located for them to be able to derive the benefits from that. So their investments does have value from that perspective.
And of course, we do know that the world is still in a bit of a sensitive and a vulnerable place. Well, many parts of the world, of course, we do have economies that are growing strongly and are growing even more than people expected. Well, economists had forecasts, for instance, the US. We also have economies that are key trading partners, particularly for South Africa, economies like China that have seen a slowdown in growth, and that's on top of our own challenges locally that is impacting on the ability of the South African economy to perform and to grow better. If we just look at what is happening in the economic environment, from concerns around growth, concerns around high costs of doing business still with inflation rates still high and interest rates still high, how are you navigating the challenges then of the global and local economic battle?
I think mainly is not to be dogmatic about your business strategy. As the world changes economically, as we have just put it so correctly, you've got to look into yourself. Is your strategy still relevant? Is your business strategy still relevant for the conditions that are currently existing globally? And how do you reshape them? How do you revisit your strategy to make sure that it fits within those challenges and do things differently? It's of no use to do things the same way when the world is changing around you. Definitely you are not going to maximize your benefit. So we always review our business strategy. Is it still relevant? Does it still attract our investors into our zone? What can we do differently to make sure we do that all the time? How do we review the packages that we offer to our investors to make sure that they remain attracted to our zone and to our country economically? So you can't be dogmatic and stick to the rules that this is how you treat your potential investors. You've got to review your economic packages that you put for them. Look at to the elements that you may maybe just remove them to make sure that their business is easy to do and they maximize profit. Because at the end of the day, business is about profit. So if you have too many elements in your package that you offer to them that are making business difficult for them to do, then it becomes a challenge. So for me, is how you continuously review your business strategy as the economic challenges face the world as it is right now. Don't stay with the same thing that is not working. You've got to be dynamic. You've got to be flexible. And it's easy to do that. It was shocking, I must say, that even during COVID, we had our investors continuing with the programs they started. Of course, they slowed down in terms of the timelines they've put, but they continue to show interest. And we had to relax some of the conditions that we had to accommodate those conditions. So you don't have to be dogmatic in your approach. Just have to be dynamic and now and again review your strategy, your business strategy as you engage with them.
I think maybe then it was a positive shock, then the continued interest that they
It was,
showed,
absolutely. In
the
fact,
challenges.
yes, in fact, some of the investors were expanding. They gave us proposals for expansion of their businesses. And again, we needed to review some of the packages, taking cognizance of the real economic conditions that we're faced with. So there's that kind of working arrangement that if you have it at your disposal, chances are you'll still grow your business within your environment.
That was Thabani Zulu, CEO of the Richards Bay Industrial Development Zone, on their role in attracting investment on behalf of government at the Investing in African Mining Indaba 2024.